Hello, welcome to my series about all Chopin's music. Today's episode is probably the most difficult of all that I did and I'm going to do. Polonaise-Fantasy in A flat major opus 61, a kind of testament of Chopin, one of his last pieces of music, and he's definitely the longest piece of music if we take into consideration the music, because it's a little longer than Fantasy in F minor. Of course, it's not as long as the sonata, but in the sonatas we have a few movements. So as a one piece of music, it's probably his longest piece of music. The greatest mystery of all the pieces. The piece of music which Franz Liszt criticized very much. He said that Chopin was mentally sick when he composed this, and that it probably means that he completely lost his mind, and he is no longer a good composer. Well, Franz Liszt didn't understand this piece. He didn't understand the form, the architecture of the piece, which is, by the way, extremely hard. If you watch this episode, I'm sure you are a passionate for Chopin's music, and welcome here. And I'm sure you know that this piece is not easy. That's why you watch this video. Please mind you that for me, it's the most difficult episodes to do, because it's extremely hard to try to explain this piece in simple words, and to explain the architecture and the inner message of this piece, um, um, using, as I said, simple words, and trying not to go deeply into some kind of musicologists of music theory or harmony or this kind of things. Of course, I could do another video about it, but in this video I will try to avoid it, but at the same time I don't want to make it kind of, I don't know, cheap or superficial. So we go very deeply inside this piece, and I can assure you I will do everything I can to make it easy to understand, and I can promise you, even though, well, I say so myself, but I can promise you that after listening to this video until the end, you will never listen to this Polonaise in the same way that you did before. Okay, so now we can start. The piece written in very bad period of Chopin's life. 1 year before, or 2 years, around 1.5, 2 years before Chopin started to write this piece, his father died. His health was very bad. In France, the revolution started, so the political situation, generally speaking, was not good. His relationship with Georges Sand was coming to an end. They were quarreling, they were fighting, there were a lot of misunderstandings, and Chopin was lonely. He lost his friend through 2 years earlier. He was missing practically everybody. He was lonely, he had depression. He was in a very bad condition. And there are two very important details and important things that I think we all should know before we start to analyze this piece. First one is that Chopin himself didn't know what he is really composing. He wrote in the letter to his friend something like this: I'm working now on a few pieces, on cello sonata, on Berceuse, and on something I still don't know how I will title this, what the title will be. So he didn't know. What does it mean to us? It means to us that Chopin was writing his diary, his testament. He was writing a music that came straight from inside of his soul, as a kind of autotherapy, maybe as a kind of description of his life, maybe of all of his life. Maybe he wanted this piece to be a kind of goodbye. Maybe he felt that he is going to die. That's why we have so many different melodies in this piece. we don't know exactly, because Chopin never shared his inner world, only in some letters, but not so much like Schumann or Berlioz or other composers. So this is a very important thing for us. It's not the piece like scherzos or waltzes or nocturnos when Chopin sit and he knew what is he writing. He wanted to write waltz, a happy, nice dancing piece he wrote. Nocturno, a romantic music, he sat and wrote the nocturno. And even the sonata, he knew he's going to be a sonata. Here, he doesn't know the title. So he could title it Ballade. Why not? This is like a ballad. Or fantasy, simply fantasy. But he decided to call it Polonaise-Fantasy, which means this piece has kind of patriotic character inside. But at the same time is deep and free as fantasy. And when it comes to the architecture and the analysis of architecture of the form of this piece, it's extremely hard because, I wrote my master's dissertation about this piece, and my theme was like this: the polemic of musicologists over the form of Polonaise-Fantasy. And I found 7 different books written by foreign musicologists, and in all of them I found a different approach, a different idea of what this piece is. Every one of them. So we have 7 different ideas at least of musicologists what it is. One says that it's a kind of sonata. Another says that it's a more Polonaise than fantasy. Another says it's a pure fantasy. Then there is another one who finds there a ballad, and he thinks that it should be called Polonaise ballad instead of Polonaise fantasy, and so on and so on and so on. Many. Well, tonight in this movie, I'm going to present my idea about this, which I don't want to be a musicologist, not at all, but I just want to make it easier for you to understand the way how Chopin thought really as a composer when he was composing this music. And to it will be personal, but at the same time a little objective, as much as the score is saying us. But I also use some kind of historical facts, and this is the second thing which should be extremely important for all of us. I don't know if you are aware of the fact that Chopin didn't start to compose this piece from the beginning. We have sketches, thanks God they were not destroyed during the Second World War or the first one. They still exist, and there we can find a lot of very important things. First of all, we know that Chopin first composed the slow middle section in the Polonaise. If you know this Polonaise already, you probably know that in the middle we have a very slow and long kind of part movement. This is where Chopin started, and I personally want to call this part a part big A. So that I know you think now I'm crazy because A should be at the beginning, but in this very piece, please allow me to do it the other way, because Chopin himself first composed the middle section. So it means it's the heart of the piece, the most important for Chopin piece of music. Now, even more interesting thing, Chopin wrote this middle section in the C major key. Here we come to the theme that I must tell you a little about the musical things. The key C major is the mother of all keys. It's the key is the key like the basic. We use it when we play the C major. We don't use any black keys, only white. So the chord C major is the main chord of all, without any flats or sharps in the score. It is like a purification, a kind of catharsis. Well, there are many words, but generally speaking, as I said, we call it the mother of all the keys. This is very symbolic. Imagine Chopin, composer, wants to write a piece. He still doesn't know what is he going to write. He starts he has the idea, writing a kind of contemplative music in C major, which starts as if the choir in heaven is singing. Well, I play it in the original key now. I will not play it in the C major, but later I show you how Chopin wanted it to sound. Listen. And then we have like the first theme. Question, silence, and then we go to part B of this middle section. So the second theme, let's say. It's so sincere. It's like a confession. Have a kind of section with the trills, which in fact has no message, but it's just Chopin wants us to have time to contemplate what we've just heard. So instead of the silence, we have this kind of back to part A. And now we have something which, if you know the piece, you know it will start the whole Polonaise, but here we have it. After that, Again, the second melody, part B. And this is the end practically of the middle section. Here Chopin stopped, and then we'll talk about it later, but this is what Chopin wrote at the beginning. And in C major, now let's listen a little bit how it will sound in C major. It's enough. Well, this is, as I said, the idea of Chopin was symbolic. He wanted this middle section to be in the most pure of all the keys, without any flats, without any sharps, just the C major. Now, two very important, extremely important things we find here in this middle section. Two quotations, in fact. Quotations which solve the whole mystery, I would say, at least for me. The first melody, well, let's analyze it how it is. We have the very important left hand, like a waves going up and going down. Up and going down. Please remember that, because it's extremely important to remember this left hand for later. And on the top we have the melody. And what is this melody? Is it a random melody? No, my dear friends, it's not. This is a kind of quotation, of course, but a very poetic quotation, so it's not literal, exactly literal quotation like Berlioz, Schumann were doing, or Tchaikovsky. Chopin, whenever Chopin quoted something, even the Christmas Carol in his Scherzo number 1, he was never exactly literal. He was always a little foggy. And here is a foggy, but still there is a quotation of the melody, folk Polish melody, which his mother was singing to him when he was a very young boy. When he was, in this lying, and she wanted him to sleep, or she was singing for him. This is the melody. And the same melody Chopin also used in his etude in E minor, Opus 25, number 5. In the middle part of this is the etude. You know it? Well, the middle part has a beautiful melody, and it's exactly the very same melody. Here, listen. Then the melody goes up. And now is the second quotation. Can you imagine? Listen. Do you know it? Well, it should be this is Chopin's song. Maiden's Wish is the title, which he wrote to his first love, the singer, when he was still a teenager. And, well, at least he wrote it thinking about her. Isn't it touching? Here, Chopin, almost at the end of his life, is going back with his head to his mother, to his childhood, to the times when he was happy. He wants to be happy again. Then he quotes his first love, which is the symbol of his teenagerhood. Now here something happens. He got lost. Get back from his dream to the reality. And now, like a confession, the second theme here is the most beautiful of all the Polonaise. The most kind, goes straight to our hearts. And it is like a story, because there is constantly something new, something new, something new. Nothing is being repeated. Chopin is confessing. He wants to purify himself. He wants to clean his soul. He wants to, maybe he is begging God to bring him back to the happiness, to the times when he was happy. Listen, and this is at the same time a little bit of a Polonaise rhythm in the left hand, which is Chopin is missing Poland. The first statement, the second. Then we have these trills, as I told you. They are like a silence, but instead of the silence, we have something in the air. And thus we come back to the part A, but only the left hand, and then we come to this moment, which, well, when we listen to the piece in the whole, we already know, because that's how the piece starts. And now, after knowing this, well, I'm sure that after knowing only this, what I just said to you, even if I finish now the whole video and the whole episode, you will already listen to this piece with a different approach, knowing that the heart of the piece is where Chopin is thinking, maybe subconsciously, maybe consciously, I think it is very consciously, thinking about his past when he was happy and wanting this, begging for this. Okay, so now let's make an analysis of the whole piece. The whole piece starts with an introduction, the most magic, the most beautiful opening of the piece of music, in my opinion. One of the most beautiful, or even the most beautiful of all the music that I know. the way Chopin is using piano, the pedal, the keeping the sound and making it magic is just special. Even in the first bar we already have the stamp of the the stamp of the genius. How? Well, listen to this. Okay, where is the genius here, apart from what we already hear? First of all, the first what we hear is the melody consists of two notes going from up to down and then repeated. And this note which is repeated, for our conscious, it's hard to believe, well actually it's hard to believe that this is the same note, because Chopin is changing the color from minor to major, and he is opening like a light, like there is somebody, the note is wearing something black and sad, and suddenly the same note, the light is coming and it's white. So this is the first genius thing. The whole character is like Polonaise, a little bit proud. And then the second genius moment, when we have this passage up. Chopin is using three notes next to each other. They are all there in this passage, but we don't have pain in our ears like we usually have when we listen to 20th century music. Most of the 20th century composers, all of them practically, well, most of them, okay, let's say, were passionately using this kind of things, right? But they were on, I don't know, on purpose. They wanted to make our ears be in pain. Well, Chopin is using it already, and it sounds so beautifully. Can you imagine? It's so easy. I mean, here. Of course, Claude Debussy later was also using this kind of passages. And other impressionistic composers. But here we have Chopin in the year 1846. And he's using it already. So, genius. Okay, after these two times, we have the conclusion. The drums in the left hand. Modulation. So the bridge to another key. And then everything is repeated, but in a piano pianissimo. And in with a different color, but exactly the same thing. And then from here, the first theme is being born. It's something that Chopin never did before in such extent. Drums. Drums. And now we have a kind of something that will be the first theme in the top voice. Then answer from the bottom of the man. And then again she is saying, and again he is saying. This is the end of the introduction. And then we have an alert. We have the true Polonaise starts. Everybody dancing the Polonaise. Hooray! But what is going on? Immediately in the second bar, Chopin is writing diminuendo. Everything dies. And then we have the first theme. This is very special because it should be the Polonaise. It should be. Instead, we have mezza voce. And we have the first theme in piano. Very strange. Very, very, very strange. Well, let's go back a little bit. As I already told you when I was playing, we have the dialogue of two persons. At that time, as I said, Chopin was in a very bad relationship with George Sand and her kids. And it was practically the end of his relationship. And in this Polonaise, I really feel and see that problem. And already here we can say that these two people who are here, first they don't agree, but because they are not together. Now he would love to agree with her, but she goes. Something is not working here. Right? And this was listen to this again. And now the first theme is the same theme from here. Repeat it. Well, okay, let's analyze the first theme. The first theme very special because it circles around, it's wandering around the one note, this note, and it appears 4 times. Listen, first, second, third, and fourth. And finally we have the A flat, so we have this is like a suspension, like we had in the Polonaise in A flat major opus 53. The suspension, but longer. So tension, and finally release. And repeat it. Tension. Then everything goes up, and then from here we have the most strange phrase Chopin probably ever wrote. Something that is disturbed, is something that somebody's trying to say something or sing something, but suddenly, or maybe somebody said this, stop, please stop, or maybe somebody can't say. Well, I try to play for you this phrase now, separating it so that it's easier to understand. Okay, so listen. And then, stop and then then from here the left hand will be building the first drama of the piece. So let's now listen to the whole theme until this moment. Phrase. Listen to this in the whole. left hand, which will be more and more dramatic and will make the right hand be desperate, completely desperate. So listen. Like a fight. Now they're desperate. And everything goes back to the first theme. And now from this moment we start, Chopin starts a kind of escape. Well, I feel here escape. We are running, escaping. We want to escape the drama, but unfortunately we can't. And we hit the drama with our head, like we hit the wall. And there will be a very dramatic, chromatic moment full of suffering and pain. So let's listen to this run, escape, and then the suffering. We don't want to be here, so we escape. And we can, and then. We finally released a little, and we have a very, well, not at all dramatic, so a little contrasting, very contrasting second theme, part B, a small B, let's say, of this first part of the Polonaise. The second part, we can find here, this is a polyphonic moment, so we have many voices. Actually, we can find here 3 different voices. First voice in the left hand, which has the waves, and the waves are taken from the middle section. This is what makes this piece united. It makes this piece one, something that maybe Liszt couldn't catch, I don't know. But another thing, well, I forgot to say, very important thing. The first theme, we have one note goes up and then we go back. This is the same motif. Up and go down. So Chopin is, well, he wrote the middle section first, so he takes some motifs and he uses them in other themes of the piece. And this is another reason to call this piece a genius piece of music from the composition point of view. So okay, so here we have this part B, and now let's listen to these voices. The first voice, left hand, has waves, but it's very interesting because it goes up 2 times, second time, and then 2 times down. And then the second time the same thing. So 2 times up, 2 times down. The second voice has only 5-note motif. And then ta 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 on the bow, a typical Polonaise ending. So here we have a part of the Polonaise, like in the title. And the third voice is the drum player. Ta ta tam tam tam. It has the rhythm of the Polonaise here. So this is probably one of the most typical Polonaise fragment of the whole piece. Let's listen to it in the title, and you can focus on left hand, on the right hand, or on the drums, whatever you wish. And second time. This was just a kind of short bridge, but it brings us back to the part B again. Next, we come back to part A. A little different. First time we have where I had a different left hand. Now left hand is different, but we come back to, so we have A, B, A. So it's a very traditional way of composing, right? Polyphony again, and these two voices will be singing this theme, but they will be again quarreling, fighting with each other. Listen this. Especially here. This is a little bit like in a fight, like I am right, no, I am right, you are wrong, no, you are wrong, I am right, and you know, fighting so much. I am right, no, I am, no. And all this brings us to the next, again to the main melody A, but agitato, writes Chopin, so agitated. So the fight is going more and more. And then suddenly we have completely new melody, which has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with both part 8 and part A, sorry, part A, small a, and B. So the first and second theme. It's part C of the first part of the Polonaise. A completely new melody, which for most of the musicologists is something completely new, separated, and also because of that, this piece was criticized. But now listen to this. Listen to this first, and listen to the rhythmic, how the rhythm is. So we have long, short, 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 long. Pam, 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 ya, pa, 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 pa. Long, pam, pa, 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 pam, pam, pa, 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 pam. Okay. Now I will play for you what you already know. This beautiful confession-like second theme of the middle part of heart of this Polonaise. And listen to the rhythm of this. Did you hear? The melody is different, very different, but the rhythm is the same, exactly the same. Pam, long, short, 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 long. Exactly the same. This is genius. This is absolutely genius. So here we have the melody, dolce, sweet, which is so beautiful and heartbreaking, and is anticipating what will happen in the middle section. So again, united the piece. It unites the piece. Let's listen to this melody in its entirety, and let's see how it will develop in the most beautiful and a kind of improvisatory way, but unfortunately brings us to drama, where there is again a kind of huge drama and fight. There will be two people chasing each other or really fighting very much until only one person will be left, and it will try to escape again, and it will escape going down, and it will enter, or he, Chopin, will enter the world of his childhood, of his memories, because we will approach finally the heart of the piece, the middle part of the Polonaise-Fantasy. Listen. And now improvisation. Suddenly the drama comes. Well, in this part I hear two persons. First, second, first, second, first, second, first, and they're going down chromatic way, and they are chasing each other. He is escaping from her in a way, so this is also another symbol. And then he stayed alone and he's escaping. I can't stand it anymore. I'm quitting. I quit. Oh, and then this middle section is like a better world. I hope you follow me. So we are in middle section in a better world, and you know it already, so I'm not going to play it again. And then we come to this last confession. Something new. A culmination of the whole piece, but it's not. It will be even more, even bigger. But this was the first theme. But it was very big. same theme. Just in case you didn't notice that, because sometimes it's not so easy to do. Okay, but what happened before? Before we had a kind of building the energy until this first theme will burst. So how Chopin is building energy? With his triple jump, as I call it. So short, short and long. Listen, first we have... And then the Polonaise rhythm. Like the signal, please go to fight. I mean, please, without please. The enemy is coming, we are getting ready, and we have to defend ourselves. See? And the second time, the same thing. And then from that moment, we have a longer phrase which goes up. So listen to it again now. We have the... Alert. Again, alert. And here we have the apotheosis of the first theme. The first theme, left hand in octaves, right hand in chords, and we are fighting, or we are winning. And now we came to the true culmination of the whole piece. And now I play it for you, and you tell me, what is this? Which part of the Polonaise Chopin is using in this moment? Because it's nothing new. Okay, not easy, huh? Now I played for you piano and slow. Listen. Now I think you know. It's the melody which his mother was singing to him. In the etude. It's the most touching moment in the whole piece, when at the end, with all the power, Chopin comes back to this melody, and he shows us that in this masterpiece, this very melody is the most important moment. This is like trying to go back to his childhood. I want so much to be back in Poland, with my mother, with my parents, with my sisters, with my friends. But I can't. I want to be again healthy, but I can't. This piece is like a question: can we go back in time? Can we be young again? Can we be happy again? Well, very philosophical piece of music, very special piece of music. And I hope now you understand it better. I really hope. At the end, after all this apotheosis of this melody, let's listen to it again, and then I go to until the end. until the end we go down. So this Polonaise doesn't finish like the A flat major when we have the standing ovation, you know. It goes down. The emotions goes down. The impression is that we are riding horse. Maybe Chopin is riding horse, escaping to the better world. So let's listen. Riding horses. And then a pessimistic part, very dark moment. And in the end, only one chord. Like a victory. And think about better world, that optimistic in the end. Yes, my friends, this is one of my favorite pieces of music and pieces of Chopin, but it was not like that at the beginning. When I was in my first year of studies, it was in 2004, so nearly 17 years ago. 16, yes, I started to learn this piece. My professor, Józef Stomper from Katowice Music Academy, he gave it to me. I was very young because I was just, 19 or 20 years, 19, 20 years old. In 2005, I think it was, I was 20. And I listened to this piece in the Arthur Rubinstein recording, and I was like, what is this? I don't understand anything. I don't understand the construction, phrases, what it really is, how to play, what to do with this. Nothing at all. And I said, I don't like it. But I learned this piece. I liked certain passages, some melodies I liked, but in the whole, the piece for me was not good. But with the time, with analyzing, with going deeper and deeper, playing it many times, having breaks, coming back, now I must say this is the masterpiece, which I love with all my heart. And I hope you too, after this video especially. I strongly recommend you to listen to it. There is my recording, of course, I can promote myself here. There is my recording on YouTube from Japan, where I played this piece in Yamaha Ginza Hall a few years ago, which I recommend. And of course there are many other. So whatever you listen, I hope you will listen with a deep understanding, and you will get to know better Chopin's soul from this time. Thank you for watching until this moment, this extremely long video, and I hope to see you again in my next episodes. Bye bye.